Thank you for joining another episode of Not a Great Whisperer podcast, where we interview ordinary people living extraordinary lives. I'm your host, Katie Ray, a fierce leader in the community, empowering you to own your story and embrace all that you are. Joining us today, I'm going to say your name awesome, Tara Battiato.
Nailed
Is it Italian?
Very much so.
Oh my God. I mean, once you say it,
we are the most Italian family you'll ever meet. We're sassy. We yell at each other often.
Once you say the last name, you're like, you can't get away from this.
I know. But people think because the red hair, I'm Irish.
Oh.
But many Italians have red hair.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, guys, everybody's everywhere.
I know.
Like, come on. I just like when people are like, you have to look like this. It's
Exactly.
Like, do I? So thanks for joining us. Wow. You're a badass.
Thank you.
That's it. That's all we're going to talk about. You're a badass. And
That
we're
was
done.
a hell of an intro, though. I liked that. Ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Wow.
Yeah, you're extraordinary.
Thank you. I
you
think
feel
I'm a
that.
baddie. I do. I feel like a baddie, finally, 40 years in.
Yes.
Took me a minute. But
Right?
I've always been
Imposter
one.
syndrome shit.
I think so. I think everybody has it. I was thinking about that when I was driving over here. I'm like, oh no, why am I picked for this? Right? But it's wild. I hang
love
out
that.
with many of people, like incredible world-class athletes,
You're in the NFL
like
industry.
all the
so
time,
that's it.
and famous people and brilliant people and all these people. And I'm like, everybody has an insecurity.
Oh, yeah, they do.
So it
Yeah.
makes it okay.
It's nice to show up as yourself, though.
Correct.
And you are a female in a male-dominated industry. Mm-hmm. So how's that been, and how many years have you been doing it?
So isn't everything male-dominated?
I was just going to say, also, I've been in a male-dominated industry
I'm like,
for years.
isn't the world what? And did no one else see the Barbie
Is there no
movie and felt
patriarch-
angry?
First of
I
all,
left and I
angry?
was angry.
And my kids love it, though.
I know. Well, it was a lovely movie. It was well
So
done,
good.
but I was like,
Yeah, I know.
that's a little sad.
Because it was true.
I know.
And you're like, wow, Will
Oof.
Ferrell, thank
Yeah.
you for telling us you had one
Oh.
female CEO.
I know. So I've been in the NFL for 15 years, 15 seasons. We count by the seasons. 5 years with the Broncos, 10 years with the Buccaneers. And then before that, I was with the Houston Rockets in the NBA for a season.
You miss basketball? I love basketball.
I love basketball. I
play basketball.
every day.
Oh, no, not anymore. I used to.
I love basketball, though. I love the glitz and the glam of the NBA. The indoors, the floor seats. Like, it is a
The
glamorous.
air condition.
It is pretty cool. But yeah, so never ever thought I was going to work in sports. Like, didn't grow up a sporty human. I always danced my whole life. My family's super artistic.
Which is so sporty, by the way.
It
People
still
don't.
is very much, but I was in the
Athlete.
ballet realm, and so we were very much. We all played instruments. We were all very artistic, and then went through that path. Was a professional ballerina, which is what I wanted to be. Which is crazy to say out loud. Every time I say it, I'm like, "That was me. I made it." And then my career, like, I got released of my first contract about a year and a half into a 3-year contract. And it was a bummer. And I kept trying to audition, and it just wasn't happening. And having to come to that realization pretty early on in life, like, this is what I trained so hard for, and it's just not in the cards for me. Like, it just wasn't happening. I, like, couldn't get it to go. And so I just reevaluated. I was like, all right, I'm like 20 years old. The whole world's in front of me. What do I want to do? So I went to school, thank God, because all of my family has like master's degrees. My father's an attorney. My mother works in finance. So the fact that I didn't go to secondary university, they were like, "Ugh,
It's time.
it's time.
So do you think your mindset was that strong because of your family? Of like, oh, this isn't going to work. What's my next move? Because I feel like at that age, we are all still awkward, trying to find ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing? But you had it so set. And then it was just like a blow.
It was a huge blow.
Let's dig into your pain here. I know. It's just straight. But I feel like at 20, wow.
Yeah. That's why when I
To
see the
have that.
gymnasts or like all the Olympians that peak so early on and then you're like a hot damn mess, I've been like,
You're like, I feel you.
I get
I see
it.
you.
Because you have one track mind of like, this is all I want to accomplish.
And
And,
you're
then
young.
once you do, you're just stuck. You're like, I feel like everybody hits that point. You know, you're like, what's your next 5 years? What's your next 10 years? And then when you have to ask yourself that at such a young age, when you thought of nothing else, it's wild. It's like a wild feeling. I was very thankful that I had such a supportive family, not only financially, but also intellectually, to be able to like
Work through it
and give me options, because now that I'm older and more
Oh, yeah.
like look at, and I work very much with community members all the time that just don't have like that option
yeah.
to be able to sit and think and like take a month and have someone support you.
That support system is like another level.
Yeah.
I always say that, like, I don't know where I'd be there without that. And you're right. When working with kids or community that just do not have that, you know how crucial it is.
Yep.
What do you think? I do the ballerina thing. I didn't know, so I love new things. So I'm very excited about this. But didn't you still continue dancing? It just wasn't ballet?
Yeah. So I went to university and I decided to join the dance team. And I did the dance team in high school for like a year with my best bud, and it was cute, but it wasn't really like my jam. And then I was like, let's make a career of it. Cool, sounds fun. So I went to Boise State University. I was on the dance team there. Like absolutely loved it. Mm-hmm. Then I was like, okay, I love this so much. Let's do this professionally. So then I was with the Broncos cheerleaders for 5 seasons in Denver. And thought, okay, I'm so great at this. It's only a part-time seasonal position, right? So I always had to have a full-time job or some other supplementary income. So I was like, all right, how can I do this full out with feeling? I didn't audition. I interviewed with the Bucs. Cool. I was one of 1,200 humans that applied for the job. Flew down the day after we lost Super Bowl 48 in Denver. The Super Bowl no one talks about because it was like the worst game that was ever played in the NFL.
Shh, don't bring it up.
It's so bad. It's so bad. No one, like, even when you go back to Denver and they're like, oh, you went to the Super Bowl? And they're like, yeah, 48. They're like, oh, that didn't happen.
Sorry,
like,
you weren't there.
Went to Super Bowl, lost tremendously in Sunday, got on a plane on Monday, was in Tampa. So
that's so cool.
It was cool. Got the gig, been here 10 years.
And not knowing anybody, you just got the gig.
Not knowing anybody. And it's pretty hard moving somewhere where you don't know anyone, specifically in Florida when you are a pretty liberal young lady.
That's I like to say it's an interesting journey for you, where you want people to just wholeheartedly be themselves. Yeah. And you come from the dance creative world.
Yeah.
And that is just such a accepting, loving. My best friend did choreography like around the world, and that crew.
Yeah.
I have no rhythm, but I would go there just to be around it's just like so welcoming and loving.
Well,
no, I don't know about NFL. I'm just talking about dance world.
I just think just the arts in general. I think arts in general is just like...
Yes. It's just so...
Everybody is who they are, and we accept everyone for what it is. So it's always challenging when people have strong opinions about things that you're like,
because you're
that's
in corporate.
Just who they are.
Yeah, and you're in corporate. So it's like you have that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome to Florida. Thanks for coming. So being, again, in every industry that's male dominated, but being around, I mean, your executives, you have a lot of women executives around you, don't you?
Yeah.
Is that different and from like Denver to here, to Tampa?
You know what? It's tough because I don't think that the NFL is male dominated just because all of the athletes are male or identify as male. I actually can't.
Yeah, but they're not working
right. So it's just tough because I'm like, there's females in every aspect of any team. Like on the football side, on the front office side, we're everywhere. I just don't think you see it as often because on Sundays you're watching the
behind
game
the scenes.
And
you're right. And I wanted to go into also cheering in the NFL. How do you advocate for, like, it was probably really hard having to have a second job when you have it's part-time job, seasonal?
It was part-time seasonal, yep.
So how do you feel about that separation too? And you started as a manager for the cheerleading?
Yep. So I started as a manager, became a senior manager, and now I'm the vice president of community impact. Yeah, so that happened 3 years ago. So that was really cool.
And what are you doing? Like,
what am I
for
doing?
Community engagement? Like, what's your jam? What makes you tick? What are you doing?
What am I doing?
Are you here?
Why am I extraordinary? That's the question. I ask myself that every day.
As I drove here today.
So we have 3 main pillars for our community program: Football for All, Football for Impact, and Football Salutes. So Football for All is growing the game of football for anyone that wants to play it. You want to play the game, you want to coach the game, you want to just
football.
Yep, all of our flag football initiatives. And then Football for Impact is harnessing the collective power of the shield and the flag to be able to sustain real impact. So that's our gender equality efforts, that's our player programming, and our social justice. So those are the 3 main buckets that I work under. Super light stuff, just, every day.
It's not heavy at all. It's not heavy.
And then Football Salutes, just super lighthearted stuff. My girlfriend yesterday at brunch was like, Tara, it's kind of the heavy stories you keep telling me. I'm like, oh, really?
You know what, though? But I think that's so cool to talk about kind of like how you got here.
Yeah.
What a perfect person to be in that spot. Who sees everyone for who they are.
I agree with that. Thank you. And I always was the person that see something, say something. Like if something wasn't right to me, I would always like speak up. I never hesitated. And I remember being younger and like if someone was being made fun of, I would be like, that's not cool. Why are we doing that? And
I'll fight a bully.
That's so powerful now that I'm an adult, knowing that not everyone feels that way. Like so often people feel like this isn't right and they do nothing about it.
I know. And I can't take it.
Like even when you walk by like trash and people just walk by it. Or like how many people cut you off on the highway. And it's like, this just, like I always viewed life as a team. And I wanted to be a strong team member always. So
super cool.
I'm in a good space to be able to do that.
I think they hired the right person. It's just kind of crazy to like see.
Yeah.
And you're like, so I showed up in Florida. But who better to do this?
Yeah. And so much of my cheer background was really philanthropic. Now that I look back on it, I did 17 military tours on behalf of the NFL. We were constantly in the community with our youth teaching dance clinics or just making appearances. And so it was really second nature for me. So now to be able to create programming around
as your job, as your career,
issues that are so important to me is really cool.
And to give you the life that you want.
Yeah.
It's like reminding people too, like you can be philanthropic and still create a life you want and not just like burn out completely and be like, cool. I can't do anything for myself because I'm doing everything for everyone else.
Yeah.
And you can make a difference in such a big way in a big ass company.
It's wild because the NFL, you forget how large of a reach we have. When you're in it every day, you forget. You know, you're just like, ugh, the Coke machine's out. Or like, why do we not have the purple Gatorade? And then you take a step back and you're like,
wait,
holy smokes.
Like Gatorade just showed up and filled
We have so much Gatorade everywhere. And I'm such a brat because I'm like, where is the purple Gatorade?
Well, I'm confused why they're only giving us blue Gatorade.
Like, why do we only have orange? So that's my trauma.
You do have a far reach. But what are some of the things you do for yourself because you deal with so much heavy social impact, social and just so much work with communities? What is it will you do for yourself? What's your thing?
I'm super thankful every day. And I know that sounds like such a Pollyanna answer, but I had the opportunity to be a CEO in a school with Hillsborough Education Foundation on Friday, and I'm looking at these little nuggets. And, you know, I'm in this Title I school, and their shirts are dirty, and they're like waiting in line to eat lunch because that's probably going to be their second and only meal for the day. And I'm sitting with these little humans, and they're so sweet and lovely, and they're like, Miss Lady. And I'm like, what are we going to do this weekend? And it's like, I get to see my dad. Or I get to go to my grandma's, or you just in those moments, I just reflect on my own existence and I'm like, I'm so thankful I had a supportive family, that I had a roof over my head, that I had 3 meals. And you have a little bit of guilt sometimes because I'm like, I had to have the coolest Nikes. Yep. And when I didn't get them, I was a total brat to my mom. And so you reflect on those moments. But so I'm very thankful every day. Every day I have a moment of Tara, you got dealt a really great hand. I also am a Pilates powerhouse. I've been doing that once a day. And for a minute, I lost sight of my fitness and the importance for myself, because when you're dancing and it's so much of your value to the world based on your exterior, you get really burnt out. I was 2 workouts a day for 30 years of my existence. And so I got a little burnt out. So I just kind of had to stop. And then my clothes stopped fitting and I was like, this is a super drag. So then realizing it's not about the aesthetics so much as just doing something for myself every day. I look forward to it with my buddies that really aren't my buddies, but I'm like, hey,
your gym buddies.
Hey, Emily, what's up? So I do that. And then, I call both my parents are getting a little older, which is a wild thing to reflect on. I call them both once a week. Look forward to that call. So those are a couple of things.
Good. Yeah.
I sound like such a lame-o.
No, you don't.
I hope not.
I think it's important. I think it's real for people. When you're in it all day, you also need to decompress.
Totally.
Being around another group of people when you're around groups of people all day for your career. But I do, being around kids, my jam. Just because they do remind you, life is simple.
Yep.
Let's be thankful.
Yep.
And snap out of it. But I think that's really important too for someone who's so active, who had a career in activity, realizing you were burnout, but finding like the real reason behind it wasn't because you wanted to work out. It was because your mental health.
Totally. And I had a lot of, you have injuries, you get a little older in your life, and like, when my shoulders are a little bit hurt, or like, it just is hard to kind of work through, and you just stop. And I needed to just stop, and then going back and doing something that you are inspired by now. I look forward to it every morning.
And she's good at it, everyone.
I'm trying. And also, like, effort is wild. I've been really thinking about people's effort because I'm such a competitive human. And so when they're like a little bit lower or like 1 inch deeper in your squat, I'm always doing that. And when people aren't, I'm like, what is wrong? And I'm like, Tara, your effort is not someone else's effort. Like, you cannot be judging your fellow classmates. But it's true. Like, I'm ultra competitive, so.
Well, you've been, that's also since childhood. Just accept it. You're competitive. Did you get low enough in your squat?
I'm like looking at people and I'm like, the audacity of this woman. Like,
and Tara is very honest with her facial expressions.
I really am. You know how I feel. There's no questions.
So we love about you. Embrace it. What do you think is I don't like doing like 5-year plan, 10-year plan. I think it's stupid. I think milestones are in, our labels don't define us. But what do you think is one of the most, other than Pilates, most important parts of your day that fulfill you? It's hard to think about it.
Most important. I love my team. I love my team that I get to work with. Yeah. We laugh all the time.
Changes the game.
Like, it is a lovely group of really like-minded individuals that are just trying to make a difference. And we all have a great sense of humor. So I look forward to seeing them all the time. I really love when I get to work directly with some of our athletes. They're so incredibly talented. Like, it is bananas, the level of talent that these humans have. And then that they take time and advocate for community members and take the time to speak to kids or go above and beyond. And it's so interesting because people are like, well, they should. This is their responsibility.
They don't
I'm like,
have to do any of that.
Well, first of all, I'm like, are you doing any of that? Like, let's take a minute, Kyle. Are you doing it? Right. Like, why are we judging everyone?
No, you got it.
But like, it is,
you're right.
It's tough. It's tough with all your responsibilities and your job and your home and your family, and then to take the time and do that. And when I get to work with them, it's always fun. And they're just such a fun group of humans.
Yeah, I think what you do is fucking-tastic. Because it also shines light, like real, you're right. Nobody looks at an athlete like, hey, oh, you're a human? Oh, you have also mental health to worry about and physical, like, no, it's like, you need to do this. You make this much money.
Right.
You're famous. And it's like, no, stay curious, not judgmental.
Yeah. And it's all of our responsibilities. That's how I feel. I'm like, it's not just theirs because they have a brighter light on them. It should be everybody's.
You're right. That's why you are community engagement, impact leader, VP, badass director of all the things, executive director of the Glacier Vision Foundation, right?
That's cool, The Vision Foundation's really rad.
Glasses for everyone? Glasses
for all children. So we go to Title I schools. We have a mobile vision clinic, which is basically a tricked out RV with an optometrist, all of the supplies on it. And we go and we give free eye exams.
So cool.
And then free glasses within 3 hours. And seeing a little human put on a pair of glasses that they didn't know they needed.
Oh, stop.
It is wildly fulfilling. And they didn't know because you just are born with an vision impairment, and you don't know.
Deal with it.
You just like scoot close to the TV, and your parents are like,
or you squint, and you're like,
right.
And
then the relief of the parent for knowing like they couldn't afford it, and like
that's powerful.
It's really cool.
Saying it like that and then just reading about it is totally. You need to be saying it like that to everyone.
Well, it's so cool.
Put it on this little kid who really couldn't see the letters on the board,
and it's such like it's such a massive change for their whole life. Like they're going to be able to see the board. They're going to be able to learn. They're going to not have the behavioral issues that they might have been able to have because they're just frustrated because they couldn't see.
You know how to pull on my heartstrings today.
It's so rad. It really is. And the glasses on the bus are cool as hell. And they get to have a little bit of individuality and artists. Like, they put on the pink ones and the mom's like, are you sure? And she's like, yes. And I love that journey for them because you're allowing them to be independent.
Like all the colors, yeah.
They're like blue and yellow. They are the brightest things that you've ever seen. And so it's just really neat. The whole thing is really neat.
You're neat. You're amazing. What's one thing you go to for like a motivation or to get you kind of in a mood? Is it a song? Is it a quote? What is it? And tell us what it is.
Oof. One thing I go to for motivation. My sister, Rachel.
Oh, love that. I hope I'm like that for people.
She's like my best friend in the whole wide world. And she's always just like been my biggest advocate.
Older, younger?
She's older. She's 13 months older. And she has my niece and my nephew. My niece is my favorite person that walks this earth. Her name is Clara.
She's probably a mini you.
We suffered a death in the family with Brownie the hamster last week. Do not worry. We have moved on.
Tara.
We've moved on. We have a Snickers now.
My heart like dropped. I'm like, oh my God, what? We have a Snickers. Do not fret.
Brownie kicked the bucket. Snickers. And now we've moved on to Snickers.
We're just replacing.
I also want you to know that if you ever need a topic or like an icebreaker for anything, ask someone about their hamster.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, I could tell
everybody
you a
has a
hamster.
trauma.
You're right.
And they're always kind of, I mean, I guess I have dark humor, but they're always kind of funny.
They are. Mine was super funny. Okay. Well, what's her name? Clara?
Claire Bear is my niece. Rachel is my sister.
And then your nephew?
Carter.
All right. Well, what a
But
crew.
I have a favorite, and I know you're not supposed to, but
it's fine. My sisters also have a favorite because they're aunts to my children, and they'll tell me often, I'm like, do not say that out loud. They're like, but I do.
My parents
like,
definitely
stop
have
it.
Do you have favorites as a parent?
I don't. Well, I have had to force myself not to.
Yeah.
Because I know it'll show in my actions.
I'm sure you have favorites like...
It's a hard... Oh, like my go-tos? Yes.
Yeah.
Jaden's like my Walmart greeter. He will say hi to everybody with me. Juliana reminds me that I don't have to say hi to everybody. And like nice. I can look at you and just wave from afar. Yep. Love that. Jazzy does not hold back anything. She's kind of mean sometimes.
You'd be like the coolest mom. Are you the cool mom at school?
I am the super cool mom. I have to have so much fun. Sometimes they're like, calm down, mom. But I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm not going to because you can't tell me what to do.
That's neat.
But I love that. I love that you have your sister to go to. I'm one of 3 sisters. And
same. And then we have a younger brother.
Yeah,
so
I have an older brother.
Yeah.
And a younger stepbrother and sister. But I love that. I think sibling bonds are so powerful. And I hope Rachel listens and is like, girl, you know it.
She's like my biggest advocate. It's wild. She's always
and
like...
she like knows you better than you probably.
Right. She came back from a dance class yesterday and there was a master class that was taught. And she called me and she's like, I think you could do a better job than the guy that taught the class. I'm like, Rachel.
First of all, you need that person in your life though.
But it's just so funny. Because I'm like, Rach, I'm all set here. Like, I don't need to teach a master class in Omaha, Nebraska. Like, I can do it if Clara wants me to. But I'm like, maybe not my jam.
Maybe if she wants me to, but maybe not. I love that though. You need somebody like that in your life. And I think it makes you even better at what you do when you know you have those people in your corner. And you're a badass. Where can we find you, Tara? Other than the Italian mob.
I was going to say, like my Instagram handles?
Whatever.
Or I live in Seminole Heights?
No, do not give your address or your social.
I'm like, well, I am currently single seeking. I'm like...
What dating app do you want us to find you?
You'll find me at 1 p.m. at this sad little bar. No. Could you imagine?
Love a good red wine.
Strong, full-body Cabernet. You can't miss me.
That's so good.
I'm T Battiato on my social. I only have the IG now.
T-Bot.
And then I am on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Tara Battiato. You can find me there.
Find her everywhere. And you can find her on Not a Great Whisper podcast page, KatieRay.com, all the handles, all the things. Look for her. And she'll be at that bar at 1 p.m. if you're looking for a hot date.
I'm like, I am a community leader. Also just bellied up.
It's perfect. You are one of the coolest people I know. I think it's really important what you're doing. I hope you remind yourself that as you're driving home today. But I think it's really important for us to shine light on the people doing the work every day in an atmosphere that's kind of heavy sometimes, right?
It is heavy stuff, but it's important. And if you're not bringing light to it, it's never going to change.
Yeah, or a little bit of comedy.
You gotta have some LOL.
Jokes. What you got?
You gotta LOL.
Did you just acronym me?
Mm-hmm.
You're amazing. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I nailed it.
Woo!